Everyone, we are doing Life of Pi today. This is for English home language guys. Let's see how far we get. We may have to definitely, I'm sure we're definitely going to have to do another session on it. Maybe one or two more, but I'm sure it will be helpful anyway. It's important for this lesson that you at least have had read some of the work. If not that, at least watch the movie. I know it's a long and tedious movie, like nothing happens in the movie. But I guess it's only when you understand you'll be able to follow where the story is going and what you are looking for in the movie. So let's see. I have opened some work here. Can the online guys, can you hear me? You see everything? You okay with that? Okay, I assume you hear me and I assume you can see everything. Okay, let's go here. I wonder if I have a summary somewhere. Things, dimorphism, survival, the will to survive. I'm just gonna scroll through here to see if I have that for you. Okay, what do you know about this story, anyone and everyone? First of all, I want to ask, to those of you who are watching the videos, is it helpful? Okay, good. Let's see. Let's quickly have a look. I'm just going through. If I have a summary, who can summarize the video or the plot for me? Go for it.
So basically, the plot is divided into two or three sections.
Yes, sir.
First is about the person who wants to find the God and whatever the universe. So you need someone who tells them a story. Then the second part is about the person called Pi, or Kissing, who is living his life. He learns about religion, philosophy, also talks about his career in zoology, and then the last part is where he is shipwrecked and is left with a tiny corporate partner. Then towards the end, it tells the story of when he is found in Mexico and tells the story, two stories. One where it's the same story, but the version difference in which he is either with his mother and three other people or with animals. And then when the person says which story is true, he says neither of them are true, and believe in God is the same thing. And which goes back to like India saying that he was choosing between Christianity, Islam, and Islam.
Awesome. That's about it. Thank you so much. Let me just try and get this up. So I'm going to go through a summary of exactly what you said, but that in itself is a lot. It's very sort of gives us a very good overview, a concise overview of what the story is. So let's quickly have a look at part one. Let's talk about the author's voice. So it says here, this note works as the introduction to the novel and is in the author's voice. It is part fiction. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but could you please zoom in?
Oh, I'm going to do that in a minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that better? Is that better for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
You're welcome, Randy. So, here's the deal. This is part fiction and part non-fiction. I guess the reader has to decide which is fiction and which is non-fiction. What part of the story is true for you and what part. Hey, Jaden, how you doing? Good to see you. Nice jacket, man. Who paid for it? Anyway, so so here we go. And it's printed in italics so that the reader can easily recognize when it is the author speaking. It begins in 1996. The note explains how the author found Pi's story and serves as a framework for how the reader must understands the novel. Part 1, that's what you can say. Toronto and Pondicherry. That's chapters 1 to chapters 36. Part 1 is mostly narrated by the older Pi, who recalls his childhood. In between are a few italicized chapters by the author, which act almost as asides, confiding in the reader of the author's observations of the older Pi. So he's reflecting really. And then he's telling us about his childhood. What the reader learns about Pi's first-hand knowledge of animal behavior. This is important, an important thing, animal behavior. And then there's religious beliefs is essential if the reader is to believe the story with animals in part 2. So there's the story of Toronto and Pondicherry, which is where he lived and grew up. Got it. And so understand that you have to know that his first-hand knowledge of the animal behavior and then religious beliefs. So you can already make those notes. That's going to come up. Animal behavior and religious beliefs. Now, part 2 is in the Pacific Ocean. That's between chapters 37 and 94, if that's where you want to go, Angela. Please make notes, Jaden. It's very important. This part, narrated solely by Pi, is the story with animals, and that's where you want to go. From shipwreck to landing in Mexico, it covers 227 days. That's important to note, which is nearly 8 months. He's 8 months he's on the Pacific Ocean. Then many view both these events, the shipwreck and then the landing in Mexico, as climaxes. It is the story that Pi tells the author about how he survives on the lifeboat with Richard Parker. So you can already make this note. I'm so sorry, let me get here. Oh, are you for real? Wow, okay, it is me, my goodness. Sorry, Google was playing around with me last night. My apologies. You do you. Okay, what's happening? Really sorry about this, guys.
Need to refresh the page.
I guess so. Maybe I was a bit too fast. I'm so sorry, I don't know what it's doing. Sorry guys, you're just gonna have to. Okay, it's not gonna work. Sorry, that's wasting a lot of time. Let's go back to the text. Okay, part 2 is on the Pacific Ocean. Let's have a look at this. This is the story I'm reading here now. It is the story that Pi tells the author about how he survives on the lifeboat with Richard Parker, Richard Parker is what you want to say is the tiger. Part 2 reveals the conflicts of the novel. That's one thing you want to also note, conflicts. What conflicts are there? The external conflict between Pi and his circumstances, and then the inner conflict between animal instinct and vegetarianism. Am I making up my own? Vegetarianism. What is that? Give it. Vegetarianism and the conflict between faith and science, and faith and despair. How many conflicts are there? You can write conflicts. Conflict number 1 between Pi and his external conflict between Pi and his circumstances, everything around him. Oh, here we go. Do you want? Here's a black one. That's what it is. Then there is the inner conflict, conflict number 2, between animal instinct and the vegetarianism. Then conflict number 3, the conflict between faith and science. And faith and despair. Like you either have faith or you don't have the faith. It breaks you down. Here you are, Angela, we are here. External conflict. Pi and his circumstances. He's on this boat and it looks crazy. Conflict number 2, inner conflict between animal instinct and you know what I mean. Vegetarianism. And then the conflict between faith and science, that's number 3. Then there's conflict between faith and his despair. Let's talk about part 3. So part 1 is about his childhood, early childhood years, and where he gathers first-hand knowledge about animal behavior and his religious belief. Part 2 is his life on the Pacific Ocean. Part 1, you want to go back there? Okay, great. Let's just do this. Part 1 is where he lived, Toronto and Pondicherry, and he recalls his childhood. It's about his childhood, where he learns about first-hand knowledge of animal behavior and his religious belief. How does he learn first-hand knowledge about animal behavior? His father owned a zoo, okay, or was a zookeeper. Okay, great. Then part 3 is comprised of the author's voice and of recordings of Pi's interview by the Japanese officials. So part 3 is in Mexico, and it's where he is. Benito Juarez Infirmary, and in Tomatlan, Mexico, chapters 95 to 100. If you want to, so what you can do is you can either read the following. Okay, let me read about where he lands up in Mexico. Then you know it's between chapters 95 and 100. Okay, let me read a bit more about his life on the Pacific Ocean. It's between chapters 37 and 94. And then about his life, his childhood life, between chapters 1 to 36. That's where you get all the information from. Okay, let's talk about where he is here. So you want to talk about, you'll find the Japanese officials there, recordings of Pi's interview by the Japanese officials in these chapters. The interview takes place on 19 February 1978. So there's an interview that he has with the Japanese officials. When the officials do not believe him, Pi is forced to tell the story without animals, featuring the gruesome account of murder and cannibalism. So in other words, they're saying they don't believe the story with the animals, and then, okay, let me tell you the story, maybe the way you want to learn it, you want to hear about or of it, where I killed everyone around me, and I ate everyone. Once the officials hear the gruesome reality of the story without animals, they record the animal version as fact in a poignant conclusion, as these seekers of truth accept Pi's version of the truth. So they're saying, okay, that's too gruesome. Let's rather go with the animal story. Okay, great. Part three brings the science versus faith conflict to a head. Science versus faith conflict. And finally bring resolution as both the officials and, by extension, the reader choose the story with animals as the better story. Because the real story is too gruesome. You need to decide which one is the truth for you. Can we go? I'm not going to go through this plot, it's way too long. I can give you that and then you can read through that. Here's a summary of the plot. We can go past that. Let's see what else we have over here. I'll be with you in a minute. We're just going to get there soon. I think page 19 is where I want to be. Oh, then they go on and they tell you all about what personification, all of that you know. Ibuna, how are you? Great. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. Names. Let's deal with names. The names of some of the characters in the novel are significant and were deliberately chosen by Martel, which is the author, according to interviews he has held to link to the themes of the novel. Many of these are aptronyms. Aptronyms. It's a name that suits a character either because it fits his or her profession or because it reflects an aspect of his personality. Don't worry about that. If you see the name aptronym, remember the word name here. You remember when we said homonyms, same name, num, the name, homo, same, num is name. So what about these names? It's when we give you a name that suits your, either it fits his or her character or profession. Okay, now let's talk about pi. Pasin Molitor Patel. Mr. Patel. Okay. Pasin Molitor Patel, aka Pi. I'm just going to read and then you can make notes and then, or we can summarize. Piscine Molitor is a name after a fabulous swimming pool in France. Okay. What you're going to be doing is make the name Pi and you're going to start making some little arrows out of there named after. Like you look so tight. What's happening here? After a swimming pool in France. Oh boy. Anyway, and he becomes an expert swimmer. So understand, Pi is out in the ocean, but he learned how to swim. Okay, get that? And his name is named after a swimming pool in France. This is important because this skill will later save his life, linking his name to the theme of survival. Okay, you can start maybe on the side. Say, okay, we're talking about conflict. We're talking about another theme, which is survival. Okay, so make a note of that. Almost on the side of your notes. I wish I can get up here. Making a pie chart. So I would sort of just draw a line somewhere and say themes, survival, and then just leave it there. If we see another theme, we come back. Boom, another theme that we need to discuss. Let's see if I can open this now. Okay. See if you behave better.
Sir,
Yes, Randy.
I have a quick question. Are you still recording? Because your face is frozen.
Yes, I am still. I have noticed that even if it is frozen, it does record. It just means that my face will be frozen on the recording. But
Okay,
other than that, we
thanks,
should be good. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. So if your notes are over here, I will just do this and speak of themes here. And then we will talk about there was conflict. Not that that is like such a big theme, but at least you know what the conflict is about. And then you know there's four conflicts that we are dealing with. Then you will note them 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we will talk about the themes would be what do you say? Survival. Okay, how did Pi survive? How did what he got to learn as a child help him survive? He had good what? Swimming skills,
Yeah, understood the animals.
understood the animals, and so then you are going to expand on it. So if we're going to build an essay, this is how you build your essay. This is what you're going to be discussing. So again, you said you're going to be writing Pi's name here. We'll talk about his name. And the first thing we said, name after a swimming pool in France. Keep it simple for yourself. Okay, next point. And you know his full name, obviously. Now, this is important because the skill will later save his life, linking his name to the theme of survival. He also ensures his emotional survival. Okay, there we go. As a schoolboy, by inventing the nickname Pi to save him from the ridicule of his previous nickname, Pissing Patel. Okay, which he had called his crown of thorns. Okay, so when they say what does Pi call his crown of thorns, it would be his nickname Pissing Patel, which he got from Passim. Okay, so let's go here. You're just gonna go Passim, nickname Pissing. This is also, we're also talking about survival. That was his nickname in school and was called his crown of thorns. Okay, when we talk about survival, one, we're going to say he could swim well, swimming skills. And number two, he intervened. What did we say? Invented his name Pi because of that, from that. So you can already see how we developed surviving skills. Okay, great. Let's move on. Who's ridiculed? Oh, his chosen nickname Pi is the name of the mathematical symbol. There we go. So we're also going to go. This is an important one. That one is like 33, 3,142. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Let's see how that comes into play. Is the name of mathematical? It's an irrational number. That's what you want. When you say discuss his name, you're going to now make notes under this. An irrational number. Here we go. What more?
It looks like the symbol looks like a shack, like a house.
But how would you link it?
Because he is on the ocean, there's nothing to protect him. So a house actually a shelter protection from the elements, from the storm. whereas in the book is on a boat. There is no
Protection. Let's read this. It's an infinite number. You want to say that. Next point under. It's an infinite number of decimal points. It has no pattern. But also refers to the scientific logical universe, the workings of the scientific logical universe. Workings of the scientific logical universe. So understand, for instance, you have this little boat on the ocean. Ocean is huge, and you have pi, this little name that is an irrational number. It's not rational that is there, but also it's infinite. The ocean is infinite around him, and the circumstances as well. It's huge. Like it's almost like he's sitting in the middle of infinity. And then this links to the theme of faith. Another theme. Let's go back to the list we made for themes. So our first theme was survival. Another theme, let's go here. Faith. If we're going to be discussing themes. Let's move on. Oh, it also means you cannot explain everything rationally, because it's an infinite irrational number. You cannot explain everything rationally, and that links to the theme of faith. Now, here's I was going to say some conflict or contrast with regards to his name. So you want to say maybe contrast. And when we go here, let's go back here. What's the contrast? You can have a whole essay under his name, the contrast. So you've made all your other little notes under here. And now we're going to just be discussing why is there the conflict that he sits with regards to his name. Yeah. A scene is named after a swimming pool which has a set, finite space. But he is cast adrift on a seemingly limitless ocean. That's infinite. So he was reared in a swimming pool, named after the swimming pool, which has a set, finite space. You know that, it's in a block, but here he's cast out in a seemingly limitless ocean. He refers to this aspect of his nickname Pi when he says, to be a castaway is to be a point perpetually at the center of a circle. Your gaze is always a radius, the circumference is ever great. So, if they can do this to you, they can give you this quote. To be a castaway is to be a point perpetually in the center of a circle. And they say discuss the statement above for 30 marks. Yes. That's the challenge you have when you only watch the movie, for instance. Because you won't find these details, but the movie will guide you to these details. So when you see this, then you're going to be discussing. Actually, I want you to understand that when you give facts, they mark facts for your story as well. When they cannot mark facts wrong, the facts in a book remains the facts. So if you, for instance, say Pi's name plays an important part to understand that his name was Pi, and it is derived from a swimming pool named blah 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 blah. Mark. That's a fact. Can you see we haven't said anything yet? You only need 29 more marks. You just get so crazy. So even if you use these facts in another essay and you can link it, it is still a fact that needs to be marked. So let me tell you what happens when they mark. So I can ask to become a marker. And then I for instance, I specialize in geography. So now I mark the Afrikaans paper. What I sit with is a memo. And in that memo, I don't know the book. Do you think everyone that marks has read the book? No. So I sit with a memo, and in that memo, there's 30 marks. They give me Pi's name. I mark, oh, I see, she's written Pi's name down. They say swimming pool. I don't even mark the story. I mark the facts. So if you start talking about Pi was when he was small, he lived with his mommy and his daddy, and they were somewhere out there, and then after that he moved to India, that's not in the marks. There's nothing to mark. You've written 10 lines of nothing. Give the facts. So I'm telling you what they're looking for. Because if I don't know the book and I specialize in geography and I see this, there's nothing to mark in your paper, you've just babbled. Careful, I'm marking fact, not facts. And that fact can be anywhere in your essay, as long as it's on the paper and it's on the memo. There we go. So when they say discuss to be a castaway is to be a point perpetually at the center of a circle, you're going to go crazy. You're going to see the sign. Boom. What does the sign represent? Infinity. He could swim well. You talk about the fact that there was the issue of survival. You talk about the issue of faith because it's irrational. Look here, your circumference is ever great. Then we're going to go back here. This links to the theme of faith because this irrational number suggests that we cannot explain everything rationally. Because the symbol here is, when we go up here, mathematical symbol, this is an irrational number. Can you see how many facts you already have to write on? Every single time you write on his name, you already have, we haven't even started yet, all of this information. You can write an essay of 30 marks just around his name. Yes? Yes, so you can do this. I would always choose essay, but here's what you can do is you have to do either the essay of the crucible or the contextual. If you choose, for instance, to do the essay of Life of Pi, you must do the contextual, the short questions of crucible. If you choose to do essay of crucible, you must do the essay of Life of Pi. Yeah, that's what I said. And 2 contextual questions. Choose one or the other. If you've chosen both, the one you get 0 for. Okay, so choose which one. But I would already prepare myself for essays on both, because if you know essays on both, you can answer any question really. In terms of contextual, it just depends on which contextuals are, I want to say. More, you can figure out if the contextual is 30 marks and you're going to get, you can see, okay, I can get 20 out of 30 for this one. I'm just going to go for it. And then you fib your way through. You can't really fib your way through the essay. You have to have facts there. Okay, let's see. Where are we now? Okay, he's named after swimming pool, which has a set finite space. Here we got circumference. Okay, instinctively, Pi wants to create a meaning out of this experience, even though his nickname suggests that complete understanding of it will always be elusive. Where we can, we must give things a meaningful shape. For example, I wonder, could you tell my jumbled story in exactly 100 chapters? Not one more, not one less. I'll tell you. That's one thing I hate about my nickname. The way that numbers runs on forever. They can even give you that. The way that this line, I tell you one thing I hate about my nickname, the way that numbers runs on forever. It's important in life to conclude things properly. So if they give you that line, it's the same facts, because he's talking about his name. You start talking about Pi's name, the swimming pool, how he was ridiculed, they made fun of his name, how he changed his name, the theme of survival, the theme of faith. Talk about the mathematical sign, it's an irrational sign. Talks about how it goes on into infinity, how he was stuck there. Talks about, can you see all of those? It's a different question, same facts. There we go. Talk about Richard Parker. The zoo's youngest tiger, that's your next heading. We're talking about names. Richard Parker. The zoo's youngest tiger is given a human name owing to a clerical error. Okay. So actually Richard Parker's name was an error, the tiger. Okay. Instead of the name Thirsty, so that was supposed to be his name, he gets the name of the hunter who caught him. Okay, there we go. Richard Parker was the hunter's name who caught him. This links to the theme of anthropomorphism. And that one is, it's when we give our animals names or characteristics of humans actually. When they say discuss the theme of anthropomorphism. See page 34. Let me go back. I want to give you where's the word? Is it page 34? I'm going to go back to 36. I saw that word somewhere. Survival and the will to survive. We're going to go there now. Okay, it's not here. Let's talk about Richard Parker. We'll discuss that. Interestingly, Mattel has said that he chose the name Richard Parker on purpose because he came across it in 3 stories. This, I guess, is not important. One is the fictional tale, the narrative of Arthur Gordon, blah, 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 published in 1838, in which 2 friends survived the capsizing of their boat and eat a 3rd survivor whose name is Richard Parker. Now, 8 years later, a real ship, the Francis Pike, foundered, and one of the victims of death and cannibalism was called Richard Parker. So someone was eaten, the victims, called Richard Parker. Then in a curious coincidence, 40 years after this, a yacht, the Mignonette, was shipwrecked and its 4 crew members were cast adrift in the Atlantic. 3 of them ate the comatose cabin boy named Richard Parker. And when they were rescued, they admitted that they had killed him in order to save their own lives. As a result, they were imprisoned for murder. What these 3 stories illustrate is that real life and fiction can overlap. Life can imitate fiction, and sometimes real events can be so awful that they seem fiction. This links to the theme of storytelling. There's another theme, storytelling. That's what you want to write, note under themes. Since there is an element of the real in all stories and an element of story in how we relate to our experience of what is real. Okay, great. So we're getting somewhere. So we know about Pi and his name. We know about Richard Parker and his name. And all we need to know, there was a clerical error. Actually, Richard Parker's or the tiger's real name should have been Thirsty. And the hunter's name was Richard Parker. Okay, the Tsum Tsum. The name of the ship is actually a Hebrew word for contraction or withdrawal. It comes from the Kabbalists' belief that God had to absent part of himself in order to create the universe. This links to the theme of faith. There's a theme, faith. Did we write that down? The theme of faith, since the sinking of the ship's result in Pi being cast alone where he turns to God for solace. Okay, Tsum Tsum actually means contraction or withdrawal. Okay, in other words, God had to empty some of himself to create the universe. Then also in the absence of companionship, he creates Richard Parker, a fantasy that enables him to survive his ordeal. Okay, so under survival, he creates Richard Parker in storytelling. Yeah? Okay. Let's talk about Mr. Kumar. Both Pi's biology teacher and Muslim mentor So you're going to start, you're going to do this. Let's maybe do this. What's the guy's name? Okay, so you're going to say the biology teacher, and then you're going to go his Muslim mentor. You put his name here, Mr. Kumar. Okay, here we go. Both by his biology teacher and his Muslim mentor, the baker, have the same name. So they can talk about the baker or they can talk about his mentor. So, Jade, you want to do this. His Muslim mentor was also a baker. Please make notes that you understand. Have the same name. This is done deliberately to suggest that they have something in common, although they may seem like opposites, because the Muslim baker believes in God and the teacher is an atheist. Pai claims they are both men of faith. Okay, so here this is it. They can ask you to discuss the contrast or the differences between the two of them. So the biology teacher was what we call a scientist, and this one was a baker. But remember, this Muslim guy believed in God as he knows God. So, but Pai is also saying the following. He's saying, why does he say that they are both men of faith? Write that down. They both believed in something, both men of faith. No? If they say they ask you to discuss that. The teacher places his trust in science and logic. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's do this. Why does Pai say I would do that? Both men of faith. Then I would go on, boom, and I would say places trust in science and logic. It takes great faith to do that. You see that? Let's read on. Okay, the teacher places trust in science and logic, which to Pai is just as much a matter of faith as any religious belief. He calls atheists brothers and sisters of different faith. Okay, he calls atheists brothers and sisters of different faith. So this guy was, as you can see now, was an atheist. And Pai calls them, again, was also an atheist, his teacher. Pai calls them brothers and sisters of different faith. Do yourself a favor, make as many notes as you can, that you'd be able to immediately, when you see it, you can connect to it. Then the contradictory similarity and difference between the two Satish Kumars is illustrated when they see the zebra in the zoo. The teacher calls it by its scientific name, whilst the baker calls alu. Thank you so much. I knew you were going to catch me. They look at the same creature and see it differently, yet both recognize its beauty. So now you see the difference and the similarity actually. They both see the same creature, but they see it differently, yet both recognize the same thing, its beauty. So here we go. Where is it illustrated? They see the zebra in the zoo. You want to make a note. Illustrated, you can say similarity and difference illustrated when they see the zebra in the zoo. The teacher calls it by its scientific name, and the man of faith, the baker, declares Allahu Akbar, which means God is great. Are we getting there? How do you see the difference and the similarity between the baker and the atheist? The atheist looks at the zebra in the zoo and calls it by its scientific name, and then the baker or the Muslim believer calls out God is great because he also recognizes its beauty. Great.
Which is the same thing. They don't see beauty, how they approach that, get to that beauty. Wow.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. Symbolism, very important. A symbol, let's talk about symbolism, and we all know what it is. It's something literal that represents something figurative. Let's talk about these four animals. One, they are, so again, we're going to talk about the four animals in terms of symbolism, and this is what you do. Are we back here? Yes, there are. I'm sorry about that. We have nothing to do with it. Okay, so you're going to go symbolism, circle it, and then you're going to go, or rather going to go four animals next, and then we're going to discuss what every animal symbolizes in the boat with him. Four animals. These are symbolic of the four people on the lifeboat. If the readers prefer to read the story as an allegory for the second one, the hyena number one equals a symbol of the cook's ferocious appetite and cruelty. Symbol, so the hyena equals the cook. What about it? Ferocious appetite and cruelty. Because the hyena will eat everything. And they had to get rid of it first. Number two, the beautiful zebra represents the injured Taiwanese sailor. You just say equals. Taiwanese sailor. Orange juice, which is the orangutan, the baboon, is a symbol of Pai's mother, equals Pai's mother. We are doing well, guys. Then this leaves Richard Parker. It's the tiger, whom we assume to be symbolic of Pai himself. And why would that be the case? Because he's always fighting this animal. And like all of us, I believe, has this animal instinct in us, and then we need to tame this animal. No, don't do this, don't do this. No, don't say this. Watch your mouth. No, don't cross the road now. Cross the road later. Now you have to watch out for the car. So you're always fighting with this animal inside. Don't eat KFC, eat the KFC. No, eat the KFC, don't eat the KFC. Eat the KFC. No, don't eat it. And eat it now. Eat it later. Not today. There's the island. What does it represent? Sorry about that. Don't make long notes. You're writing long essays already. No, we're still going to come back. You still have, like, between the 3rd and the 30th, you have 25 more, what's that? 27 more days. We're going to come back here, don't worry. We have to come back to do this. Yeah. Okay. The island, what does it symbolize? Faith. The island demonstrates that there is often a fantastical element in a story that may be hard to believe. However, if we want to accept the whole story, we have to take a leap of faith at some point. So if they talk to you about the island as a symbol of faith, this is what you're going to say. That there's a fantastical element in every story that may be hard to believe. If we want to accept the whole story, we have to take a leap of faith at some point and believe the story that one day she met her prince, her knight in shining armor, on a white horse, and they drove off. They ride off into the distant future as the stars twinkle, little star, and they lived happily ever after. It's the fantastical element. So we have to believe that. Here's an important one, the color orange. You'll possibly find this in most of the paper. Discuss the color orange, this symbolism of the color orange. Why are you so early, young lady? Oh, she's rough and ready, eh? She's an eager beaver. Okay, let's talk about. In Life of Pi, the color orange is used to symbolize survival. I'm so sorry, Bona. Did I give you any booklets? Did I give you any books? Okay, fine. Okay. It is also linked to hope. This symbolism is made even richer when the orange objects in the boat begin to fade in the sun. Have you ever been in life, I guess? Let's say you like the car, let's use a car, a Mini Cooper. You like it. The next thing you do is you see Mini Coopers everywhere on the road. That kind of thing is when you start recognizing things. So what now happens with the color orange, suddenly it pops up everywhere on the boat. So I'm going to teach it now. So that means, and what does it symbolize? Hope. Okay, let's see. There's a few things on the boat that gives him hope. Okay, this suggests okay, let's quickly have a look. The symbolism is made even richer when the orange objects in the boat begin to fade in the sun. This suggests Pi's fading hope, but also his tenacious clinging to survival. The mind map on the next page illustrates the example of orange from the novel. Let's start here. Symbolism of the color orange. Where will we start? Richard Parker. Brownish orange streaked with black vertical stripes. That's what we believe a tiger looks like. Now we're just going to read through it, and then you can make notes. The color of Richard Parker's fur is mentioned often. Pi's intervention of the character of Richard Parker as a lifeboat companion is a way for him to distance himself from the awful things he has to do to survive. So Richard Parker, he creates this animal, this fur, and it says he chooses this tiger as a lifeboat companion as a way to distance himself from the awful things he has had to do to survive. He has had to do to survive. When the author or the narrator meets the adult Pi's daughter, okay, there we're gonna go again. That's important. He creates this animal-like character to survive, and then his daughter also holds an orange cat. Again, the orange cat is another symbol of survival. Got it? So please don't forget about that orange cat that he holds. This shows Pi has survived and built a new life for himself. That's what you want to write down. But a smaller, tamer version of Richard Parker still lives with him. Like you can get a guy who's like so boisterous and man, he's vicious and rude. He gets a child or baby and suddenly becomes so soft. Okay. So what does the cat symbolize? This shows Pi survived. He's built a new life for himself, but a smaller, tamer version of Richard Parker still lives with him. You have to write. I've given you 4 points. Wow. She always sits like this, eh? After I've repeated it like 3 times, then I have to say, you have to write. While I'm talking, please write. It shows that Pi has survived one, built a new life for himself two, but a smaller, tamer version of Richard Parker, 3, still lives within him. That's when he sees when we are introduced to his daughter. And let's go clockwise. Orange juice. So you can use the statement. His flaming hair looked stunning. Her flaming hair looked stunning. Orange juice represents Pi's mother. The deep love between them sustains Pi through the first days on the lifeboat. So orange juice refers to his mother. Remember, this was the orangutan. Okay, there we go. Yes. So she helps him. The deep love between them sustains Pi throughout the first days on the lifeboat. Then what else was orange? The whistles. Okay. Oh my gosh. En ek moet nou you asked me en Jaden gee net my 'n vel kyk. Dis bra. Jy weet mos ek is nie klaar nie. Ja. Can I move on? Okay, great. I'll do that. There's the whistles. Even the plastic beadless whistles were orange. Pi uses the harsh sound of the whistles combined with the induced nausea to train Richard Parker to fear him as alpha animal. This protects Pi's territory in the boat. So the whistles help him to protect his territory in the boat because he uses the whistle to train this animal. Every time the animal goes over a certain line, he uses this harsh sound. And again, you can see how his skill that he developed in the zoo now helps him train this crazy animal in the boat. He uses the harsh sound of the whistles to train Richard Parker to fear him as the alpha animal. We are almost done to the guys who has joined us online. The lifeboat and objects in it, the lifeboat itself, the whole inside of the boat, and most every other significant object aboard was orange. Almost all the important things Pi uses to survive on the lifeboat is orange. So the inside of the boat is orange. Then there's the sunrise and the sunset. Wait, wow. It is in a sign language class. Jaden is teaching me sign language. Okay, let's talk about the sunrise and the sunset. We are discussing the color orange. Warmth came only when the sun, like an electrically lit orange, broke across the horizon. They can ask you to discuss that. And then it will, if they say 30 marks, you're going to go for all of this. That means you're discussing the color orange. If they talk about even the plastic beadless whistles were orange, you're going to discuss all of the orange. If they say talk about the whole inside of the boat, you're discussing all of this. Okay. The sun was beginning to pull the curtains on the day, placid explosions of orange and red. When you see that, you know what you are discussing. Here we go. Every day that begins and ends represents the triumph of survival. Every day. Hope, remember, survival, hope and survival. That's what the color orange represents. Every day that begins and ends represents the triumph of survival. Religion. It seems orange, such a nice Hindu color. Can you see that again? They're talking about color when you get that statement. I wish I had a cordless mouse. So when they talk about the Hindu color, is the color of survival. His religious beliefs give Pi hope. Every morning and evening, Pi says prayers and follows rituals from his three religions. What were the three religions? Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. So every morning and evening, imagine you are out there on the boat, wouldn't you? You pray to any god in your head. Allah, wait, God, please, God, if Allah is listening, please. You will do anything to survive. So, every morning in Pi says prayers and follows rituals from these three religions. This fills the time but also keeps his faith alive. What else was there to do? Jesus, take the wheel. I think I'm going to pray to all three of my gods too. Okay, is this making a bit more sense? When you're going to watch this movie now or read certain portions of the book, you know what you're looking for. Jaden, have you started reading? Yes, of course not. So here we go. Here's a few more objects. That was a rhetorical question. Needs no answer. Here we go. Your orange life jackets and oars to build a raft. There's the life jackets, and the oars are those sticks you use to row the boat, no? Is that it? That's an oar. Is that an oar?
Yes.
Yeah. Then orange buckets. Old Richard Parker's water. Okay, help me with this word. There's the orange toplin. Yes. And bailing cups are handy. They're also helping him to survive. Only the orange flare representing hope of rescue proves to be useless. So everything else was useful. There's the life jackets and the oars to build a raft. Then there's the orange buckets, which holds his water. Then there's the toplin and the bailing cups. Obviously, they come in handy with the training. And then there's only the orange flare representing hope of rescue. Proves to be useless. Oh Lord. You have a whole essay on orange, can you believe it? I hope you get this type of question. Yeah, Jaden, this is all about you. Please go watch the movie at least. Of course. Are you going to, another rhetorical question, are you going to read the book? Eventually. Of course. The movie will make you sleep. I watched this movie on a Sunday afternoon, like literally just sat there and I was Hello.
So we're not writing life of
Pi in paper 1.
No, in paper
Okay,
2.
sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So you still have time between paper 1 and paper 2. We had this discussion yesterday. You write letters, you write essays, it's writing. It's creative writing. No, that's a lot of marks. Didn't we discuss this? Yes, I think that's paper one. Yes. Hello, sis.
So we have to choose.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay, great. When we come back again, we will now start. When we come back after paper one, we will start with a more intense look. We'll give a more attention. Yes, thorough look at Life of Pi and then the Crucible. But you already have a good view now of what's happening. Yes. Listen, within what we've discussed today, there's already so much. Because then we talk about themes. The theme of faith, the theme of storytelling, the theme of religion, what was the other one? Whatever. Survival. Okay, cool. I think that's it for today. From today onward, we are only going to be doing paper one's work. Okay. Sorted. Thank you. Are there any first additional guys online? See. Oh, Edward is here. Thank you. Thank you. Nate, you didn't even say one thing. What's happening in your life?
Hi sir, how are you?
I'm okay, Nate, man. The class was so quiet without you. Angela's just sitting here. She's just moping around.
I'll be tomorrow on Thursday, sir.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Okay. Then.
Thank you. We are definitely meeting on tomorrow and Thursday. Yes, thank you.
Mr. G.
I've never seen